Roseville, Ohio. My name's Henry. I'm a produce farmer and do some other things too. So today we are soil sampling with OEFFA's Ohio Soil Health Initiative. I am trying to understand some of the problems I've been having with this relatively new farm field. So I've seen some nutrient deficiencies. I suspect I probably need to lime. I've done a lot of abuse with tillage and plowing to kind of move things from sod. You can see the original edge here, this fescue and orchard grass that I'm not very fond of. So I had to destroy it all in a way not using pesticides. And what are we left with? Probably depleted organic matter and some soil structure issues. So I want to know today what my organic matter levels are as a baseline for the years coming forward as I continue working up on this hilltop. And I also want to understand my pH and basic nutrient dynamics so that I can do a little better job with fertility this year. I think the Haney test will give me some idea of biological activity, and particularly nitrogen mobilization, like our soil microbes creating nitrogen or mobilizing that for crop up. So here we are. I'm going to take a bunch of soil tests, and I'm not sure how I'm going to divide the plot up yet. I think I'm going to do this main use area here first. You see some tillage and some permanent beds going in. It's kind of a hodgepodge, but hopefully by the end of the year it'll all be kind of like permanent no-till beds. And then over there was some corn. Last year I grew blue corn and beans and pumpkins, so that's managed a little differently, so I might sample that separately. And then up here on the hilltop is all under cover crop. We've got cereal rye and crimson clover, and it's doing awesome this year. My only regret is I didn't add hairy vetch. I did that because I was anticipating roller crimping all of it, and hairy vetch is just a little hairy when it comes to roller crimping. But I've since devoted my resources towards occultation tarping, which has given me a lot more confidence over cover crop termination. Hence, and I've gotten way bigger occultation tarps. I'm running 40 by 100. If they weren't so expensive, I would have gotten them even bigger. And so this whole place will just have tarps kind of walking through it as the season goes on, as I do successions of market crops. Mostly up here I've got some tomatoes and peppers I'm going to plant into that, a lot of melons and some sweet corn. And then whatever's left I'll plant with blue corn for my chickens and for my, I mill blue corn for market and for home use. So that's kind of the plan. I just want to break it up into some separate sampling zones that make sense based on my previous management and the topography a little bit. And like I said, my main interests are understand kind of baseline organic matter and chemical dynamics, nutrient availability, and then we're going to give Haney a shot to see if it tells us anything about biological activity. What do you think, Zebediah? That's it. As far as taking a soil sample, there's not too much to it. One thing I do is I have a 6-inch stick cut here, a little piece of willow from my dad. Thanks, Dad. And I like to do 6 inches because that's more or less how deep my previous tillage has been. And I just, using a sophisticated knife here, got that sample at 6 inches and discard the rest. And I'm going to dump this top 6 inches in the bucket. Now, is that all the information I want for my soil, just the top 6 inches? Absolutely not. No, we want to know all the way down in the depth as well. I just am not going to take fertility testing there because that would be outrageously expensive to have that many levels of information at this particular time. But in previous soil testing, I've tested everything from top 6 inches, the next 6 inches, down another foot, down another 2 foot. So all the information is useful, and it's handy to have a deep profile sampler like this because, check that out. You can just, in a few seconds, look at that. What does that tell me? It tells me the depth of my organic horizon. It tells me when I start to transition to subsoil. If I wanted to, I could test that subsoil to try and understand what its nutrient dynamics are. It also tells me where I'm starting to hit rock. Look at that. I'm up on a hilltop. Got some rocks in there. Uh-oh, maybe my soil's not too deep. Might not want to plow that deep. So there's a lot more information down deep. One of the things I always look for is signs of water. Obviously, this is a fantastic vegetable soil for me because there's very little gray colors down here, meaning that I don't have standing water. The water is draining, and here on our farm, standing water is a nightmare for vegetable growing. So that's why I'm working up here. And when I first was picking spots on the farm to focus on for vegetables, I was really looking for good drainage. So looking deep in your soil can tell you a lot about drainage and a lot of other information. So here's an earthworm. That's probably a good sign. Sorry, buddy. And again, I'm just taking a 6-inch slice off the top to get some fertility testing. And how many samples to take? Just here and there. You want to get a kind of random sample. I'd take at least on a plot like this, a dozen pools, maybe more. Don't make it too complicated. Be pretty random about it. Don't just sample from one bed or one part of the bed. Go all about the place. Get some from your aisles, get some from the beds. Try and get a good ensemble of information. Disappointed about with this particular situation is the very top of the soil profile here. As you can see, I see no dramatic enrichment of organic matter. I do see dark colors. I'm pleased to see that. It means I haven't totally depleted my organic matter stocks. But in an ideal no-till situation, we should be seeing black or very dark brown colors form up top. And so one thing I want to do today is just have a little comparison with some of the beds that I've gotten heavy compost applications on, and to see if I've had any noticeable change between these areas that haven't had compost. There's just some straw in here. I think I tilled this last August for some fall crops, and put some straw on there and occultated it with the tarp. That was awesome. Straw with occultation meant lettuce heads that had 0 weeds, which was phenomenal. I had never experienced that before. So definitely combining organic mulches with occultation was like revelation. And but nonetheless, we haven't really rebuilt the topsoil organic matter. So let's go have a look at another bed where we've added some organic, some compost, and see if it did anything. Here we've got compost. I bought a truckload of compost from Price Farms Organics. It was phenomenal, but unfortunately I can't afford to do that again. I since obtained horse manure from a neighbor, and so that's what that is over there. So we're trying to get more compost on the ground, and wow, look at that. This is what I want to see. We have restored the organic layer, and that's going to mean great things for the future of the soil health. And hopefully with time we'll see that grow as we continue to add organic amendments and grow more cover crops and have better rotations. I want to see that layer both get taller and deeper into the profile. As organic acids leach down into the soil profile, we should start to see that grow in both directions. So let's hope. I'm actually not going to add this to the bucket because it's going to skew my results since I've amended this. I'm going to mostly focus in this moment on areas that haven't amended to understand my baseline conditions. These are clay loam soils derived from aeolian deposition, windblown deposits off the massive glaciers, which are just up north. Big block of ice, warm hot air coming from the south, carrying dust, and then it hit this wall of ice and dropped. And so these hilltops are covered in, particularly here, basically loess deposits. And so these soils are not like high organic matter soils to begin with. Down on the floodplains is a different story. My hypothesis is that those floodplain soils on the bottoms, which were derived from glacial outwash flowing down the river valleys, where glacial water would have just filled this entire valley and filled it with sediments and organic matter. And if I had to guess, those soils are not only deeper, but supercharged with organic matter and other nutrients. And they're very useful. I grow a lot of corn and row crops down there, but I like this area because it's way easier to manage moisture up here. It goes away when it rains heavy, and then when I need it, I can irrigate it. It's warmer. The cover crops are like twice as big already as the ones down there. And in general, it's just way friendlier for intensive management. So that's why I spend a lot of my time up on the hilltop, but we have very appreciable differences in our soils between hilltop and valley bottom. And it's important to think about those and manage them accordingly as a farmer. Labeling our soil sample. So we've got our 2 2 samples, one for each of my free Haney soil tests. Thank you, Nature Conservancy. And right here I'm going to label just a little bit of information where it came from. So this is from the hilltop. Had a cover crop. I know what that was. And I know that the date today is, what, the 27th of March? So I'm going to throw that in the bag. Pro tip, always write it twice. So I'll put a piece of tape on it and write it again. Don't put anything in the bag because soil is hungry. If you put something that has some organic matter in the bag, it won't be there in a couple weeks. So I definitely recommend labeling on the outside of the bag. And so from here I'll dry the sample down. I'll run it through a sieve. The lab will do that for me, but I like to do it myself. And I'll put it in the mail and send it off to the soil laboratory. Hopefully get some good information in a couple weeks.